With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. This is a bunch of stuff, deal.
What does that mean, a bunch of stuff?
Well, it means it's simply inaccurate.
It's Irish.
Exactly, it is. We Irish call it malarkey.
Thanks for the translation.
No,
Okay.
We Irish call it malarkey.
You know what this is? Yeah, and I reserve this word for those rare instances when it's truly deserved. This is malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Direct from the King Spring Studios in beautiful Smyrna, Georgia. This is a bunch of malarkey. Now, here's your host, the incredible Charlie McMahon.
Thank you, Scott Shannon, and thank all of you for tuning in to yet another episode of A Bunch of Malarkey. Over 8,700 of you tuned in last week, a new record. And I want to thank Phil for coming in, talking music. So that's back-to-back weeks. Claire, over 8,100 listeners, and Philip with over 8,700. So thank you all so much. People, in the podcast community, I read online, they say, oh, summertime, people aren't going to listen. People are still listening, and I thank you all very much for your support. So I guess you could call this the kickoff to summer edition of A Bunch of Malarkey, because if we're officially in summer now. Are we in the dog days of summer? When do the dog days of summer start? Well, here in Metro Atlanta, they've started. It is hot. It is humid. Thunderstorms every day. It's just that sticky, hot, humid weather that you just don't want to go out in. But on the bright side, there's only about 6 months until Christmas, so you can start planning accordingly. I know we're laughing about it, but I'll tell you, folks, you start looking in the stores now. The kids just got out of school. I know up north, they've been out of school here a few weeks. You're going to start seeing back-to-school commercials and supplies out soon. And before you know it, in a month, you're going to start seeing Halloween candy and all that crap. So it is far off. It's a half a year away, but you're going to start seeing all this stuff come creeping in very soon. But like I said, it is hot. Baseball season in full swing. I had the opportunity to go to the Braves Mets game at SunTrust Park here in Atlanta, in Smyrna, I should say, because they're now in the suburbs. Had a great time with my wife and Johnny B and his wife, and had a great time. But you ever notice, like when you're at these games, the row in front of you, I mean, we sat in a great part of the stadium behind home plate in the Infinity Club. Now, that's a part of the stadium where if you get up from your seat, the seats are padded, by the way. You get up from your seat, you go up the stairs into this air-conditioned, own private lounge, private concessions, private bathrooms, all climate-controlled. You don't have to deal with waiting on lines at concessions and bathrooms and humidity. It's amazing. So when you had enough of the humidity, you get up and you go to your seat. That night happened to be a great night. It was cool. Perfect night for a ball game. So we always have fun with Johnny B and his wife. But we were sitting, you ever sit in a row at any sporting event, and you could see what someone's doing on their cell phone, whether they're looking at pictures, whether they're posting what they're doing on Facebook, whatever. Well, this guy in front of us was, I don't know, he must have been a tax guy, an accountant, tax attorney, something. This guy's like scrolling through people's 1099s and W-2s and PDFs on his phone. All the people's information on their social security numbers, addresses, how much they make in a year. Guy's just scrolling through them casually during the baseball game. And I'm thinking to myself, as bad as that accountant was my parents had, remember I told you the story about the Jehovah's Witness wine salesman, tax accountant? I don't think I'd want this guy doing my taxes, sitting at a Braves game, scrolling through people's private information, the things you see at these games. You've read articles or seen on Facebook. People see people with their husband and wife talking to their girlfriend and boyfriend, cheating on their husband and wife, texting with somebody else, right, with the husband and wife sitting right next to them. So you see all kinds of things on these screens in the row in front of you. So I just thought I'd point that out. So be careful who handles your finances and your taxes. So we are like I said, in full swing of summer now. Memorial Day, the unofficial kickoff to summer, but we are in the grips of summer now. Speaking of summer and heat, I read a poll the other day that I found interesting. Now, I don't know how to think about this. A new poll finds that nearly 40% of young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 have not used deodorant within the past month. The numbers were only slightly lower for individuals between 25 and 34, with 31% deciding to ditch the deodorant. In addition, 48% of respondents in that age 18 to 24 group said they hadn't even purchased deodorant in the past year. For 25 to 34-year-olds, that number is at 37%. 37% of 25 to 34-year-olds polled said they haven't bought deodorant in a year. The numbers drop significantly for adults over 35, with only about 20% having not used deodorant or antiperspirant recently. The market research company YouGov conducted this survey. Apparently, the group isn't making the decision because of any perceived health risk, but they say they don't use deodorant because they don't think they need to. The poll found young adults wash their hair just as often as their parents' generation. So they're still washing the hair, but they have something against deodorant. Now, I'm going to be honest here. If I'm going out to dinner, I'm going out with friends, I'm working in the yard, I'm going anywhere outside the house, even to the supermarket, I'm wearing deodorant. Shower every day, wear deodorant. But if there are days where I know I'm not leaving the house at all, I always shower because I just feel gross otherwise. But I don't put deodorant on if I'm not leaving the house. If I'm not going out in the humidity, out to work in the yard, if I'm just sitting in the house, I don't put deodorant on every day. But if you're interacting with the public on public transportation, riding in a car with somebody on a plane, at work, anything like that, yeah, I feel like you should wear the deodorant. I think it's a courtesy to everybody else. But if you're just going to sit in your house, take your shower. You don't have to wear the deodorant. So that's where I stand on that. I don't think these people are really mutants per se. So I want to know your opinion on that. Do you think these people in these age groups who are not wearing any deodorant, which is 40% of young adults between 18 and 24 and 31% between 25 and 34 are just ditching the deodorant? So, again, if you stay at home, that's your business. But if you are sitting on a plane next to somebody or going out, you got to wear the deodorant. So, let's transition to one of our favorite, I would say it's our favorite segment.
Mutant of the Week.
Now, last week, it was pretty close. We had a 56 to 44% victory, and the winner, our Mutant of the Week, is the Power Wheels Wackadoodle, the young lady who took a ride on a Power Wheels toy truck and got pulled over about a mile from her home and was intoxicated. She won 56 to 44% over Morgan McBarass, the guy who got naked at a McDonald's and tried to have sexual relations with the railing. 56 to 44%. So thank you all. We had a good turnout in the vote last week. And if you're new to the show, which obviously we're still getting new listeners because our listenership is rising every week, where do you vote for the Mutant of the Week? Well, you go to our Facebook page, just type in a bunch of malarkey in the search engine. And when you go to the page, like the page, and the poll appears on Tuesday mornings, bright and early, and ends somewhere Saturday, midday, late morning, midday, early evening. So you have 5 full days to vote, and it is time to present. So we have a winner. So for a solid week now, Power Wheels Wackadoodle is our Mutant of the Week until she gets dethroned by one of these 2 nominees. Our first mutant nominee comes from Limestone County, Alabama. Sounds like a great place. Authorities arrested a man and are searching for another after they found methamphetamine, drug paraphernalia, body armor, and an attack squirrel during a search on Monday. The Limestone County Sheriff's Office said Ronnie Reynolds, 37 years old, was arrested during the search. They said Mickey Polk, who's 35, is now wanted by investigators for allegedly feeding a squirrel meth to keep it aggressive. Investigators said that they searched an apartment in the 21,000 block of Piney Chapel Road about 8:30 a.m. last Monday after they received tips about an attack squirrel being fed meth to keep it aggressive. They found meth, drug paraphernalia, body armor, ammunition, and the squirrel in a cage. Animal control officials were called to the apartment, and they in turn contacted officials with the Alabama Game and Fish Division of the Department of Conservation. Officials said they were told it's illegal to have a pet squirrel and they should release it, which deputies reportedly did successfully. Reynolds, he was charged with possession of a controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, and loitering at a known drug house. He was taken into the Limestone County Jail and released on $4,000 bond. Deputies stated that they were unable to safely test the squirrel for meth before they released it. So this guy was actually coaching and training a squirrel. So let's call him Coach Crank. So Coach Crank is our first mutant nominee, the guy who was training an attack squirrel out of Alabama. So we've got Coach Crank. And our second nominee, come on, folks, would it be a week if it wasn't someone from the Sunshine State? We got to go down to Brevard County, Florida, where a Florida man remains jailed on charges of stealing pool floats for sex instead of raping women. Yeah, you heard that right. According to Florida Today, the Palm Bay Police Department stopped Christopher Monin, 35 years old, as he was riding his bike around 1:30 in the morning on Thursday, the 13th of June. He was acting suspicious, according to a police report, and police found that he had a garbage bag full of deflated pool floats. Monin allegedly admitted to going into the backyards of homes and stealing these pool floats. About 75 floats were found in his possession, police say. The report says that Monin stated that he sexually gratifies himself with the pool floats instead of raping women. What a nice guy. Monin is currently in the Brevard County Jail, charged with burglary of an occupied dwelling, criminal mischief, and petty theft. So we're going to call him the floaty fucker, because that's very fitting. So we got two heavyweights this week, don't we? We got Coach Crank, the guy who was training an attack squirrel with methamphetamine, getting them all hopped up on meth and training him to be an attack squirrel. And then we got a guy having sex with pool floaties. So the floaty fucker and Coach Crank. So the poll goes up on Tuesday, ends on Saturday. So I don't know how we transition from that, but we're going to jump right in. I guess he's keeping busy, right? You could say the guy going around with those pool floaties, he's keeping himself busy. And nowadays, folks, when you ask someone how they are, what do you get most of the time? 95% of the time, what are they going to say? They're going to say they're busy. They're going to say, good, but I'm busy. Or they're even going to say, I'm crazy busy. I'm slammed. Everybody's busy. Even the guy fucking pool floats. Everybody's got something to do, and they're in a hurry to do it, and a lot on their plate. It's become a badge of honor in a way, hasn't it? Saying you're busy, a signifier of success. I'm a busy guy. A brag that implies we are important and in demand by everybody. But folks, if you really are too busy, chances are you're not saying no quite enough. And that's what the episode today is all about. Learning how to say no to the things you really don't want to do and free up that time for the things you are passionate about and love doing. Now, I know many of us struggle to say no. Fearing rejection or anger or just the uncertainty of what the other person's response is going to be. People pleasing, we are people pleasers. A lot of us are anyway. And a lot of that's rooted in our childhood. Maybe we were taught to be like good girls and boys when we were a kid, or mommy or daddy's little helper. Or maybe we didn't get any affection when we were a kid or attention, so we seek it now in our adult years by trying to please others at the expense of ourselves. So that's not very healthy. We can get very used to saying yes and pleasing others, and we don't even know what we want or what our needs are. But if your life is so tightly packed, folks, with other people's requests that you don't have time for what really matters to you, or worse, your mental health is at risk, it's time to make a change. Didn't Michael Jackson say that? Make that change. So it's time to make a change, folks. So you might be asking yourself, what's wrong with saying yes and keeping people happy? It might be a hard pill to swallow, but consider this. Compulsive people-pleasing can be very unhealthy for yourself. And we're going to get into that. If you've ever overextended yourself, fallen short, and felt completely inadequate, today's podcast just might soothe your soul a bit. I'm here to soothe souls today, folks. Maybe you consistently overcommit, or your to-do list just never quite ends. Well, there are definitely circumstances that cause us to be in over our head a bit. Typically, that drowning feeling is completely self-imposed. We bring it upon ourselves, folks. For some reason, we like to measure our worthiness by how much we get done, as if we are our accomplishments, as if we weren't good enough already. So we have to prove to everybody how great we are. Hopefully, that's going to stop after listening to today's episode. Say no so you can say yes is our theme today. This podcast episode, it's an invitation to say no to the things that really don't matter, so you have the time, energy, motivation, passion to say yes to the things you care about. That kind of makes sense, right? So every day, you have dozens of chances to say yes or no. And every time you say yes, when you really deep down want to say no, you're cheating yourself and the project that you said yes to, or the person you said yes to. You know, I get it. There are times when certain things in life that you have to do that you'd rather not do. But that's different from saying yes to everything because you think it makes you better or more attractive, more lovable, sexy, happy. Insert your own feeling there, folks. It's important to say no so we can create more time to engage in what matters the most. Even though we may feel bad or worried about saying no, it's still important because we need more time than we actually think we need. Not only do we need more time to do the usual things, the everyday things, folks, that you can't get out of, but we need time to notice things and to process thoughts and emotions. It's like the old expression, right? Take time to smell the roses. We need time to move through the world, present and undistracted. We need time to just be. We need time to remember who we are. We can better serve the world when we have time to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting mindlessly, when we're on autopilot. Just say yes to everything. We need time to take care of our bodies, time to listen to ourselves. We deserve time to engage in the things that are on our, yes, you can call them like our heart list, our passion list. Not only the things that are on our to-do list. Things like exercise, talking to someone funny on the phone that's going to make you laugh, or maybe just laying around on a Sunday watching the game or a bad movie on Netflix or Prime or something. When all of your free time, folks, and free time and space is dedicated to keeping up, catching up, regrouping, or making ends meet, working yourself to death, it's not free time. If you want free time, real free time, or if you crave a full night's sleep, 8 hours of sleep, who's really getting that? A proper lunch break. Who's taking a proper lunch break at work anymore? Or at least 24 hours away from your email, you're going to have to start saying no. A lot. Saying no is not an easy feat, especially for the kind, generous people, for the people pleasers, like I mentioned, and for people who are just used to saying yes to everything. So let's stop for a minute. It's time to take some self-evaluation. How often do you say yes to something you really don't want to do? Are you a people pleaser? Are you a generous soul? Well, today, you could still be a generous soul after this podcast, and you could still be somewhat of a people pleaser, but you really need to take the time to do the things that make you the happiest. Really, how many times have you said yes to, yes, I'll chair the silent auction, or be part of that charity bake sale? Oh, yeah, I'll meet you for coffee, even though you really didn't want to go. Or, yeah, someone really needs to talk to you about something. Yeah, you could pick my brain. Or, yeah, I'll drive you to the airport at 1 a.m. Or the phone rings. I'll take that call even though you want to. Or you volunteer to make something for a party that takes all day to cook. Or responding to every notification on your phone. The list just goes on and on and on. And now we've all done it, folks. We've all said yes when we really wanted to say no. Whether we say it out of guilt, fear of missing out. Remember that whole thing? FOMO. Remember Amanda taught us that? FOMO, fear of missing out, or out of habit. It's important to note that saying yes when your heart says no is a disservice not only to you, but to everyone you say yes to. If your heart says no, it will fight your yes all the way through. You won't be excited to contribute to whatever you said yes to. You won't give your best, and you may end up resenting the commitment or the person who asked you for that commitment. There are exceptions to say yes when your heart says no. You know, your brother's getting married. You got to go to his wedding. You know, doctor's appointment. You got to stay healthy. Work trip. You know, your job tells you got to go away. You got to go away. There are certain things you can't say no to, or you shouldn't say no to keep your health and, you know, family ties and things like that. But what you have to do is figure out what matters to you by asking yourself some questions. Ask them out loud. Maybe, you know, when you're alone, after you're asked to do something, say, does this really matter to me? Is this contributing to the life I want? And am I saying yes for the right reasons? When you hear yourself say that, I think it might be easier for you to come up with the right answer. To start reclaiming your time and your mental well-being by saying no more often, tune into what it is that you really want. So you'll start to tune into what it is you really want to be doing with that time. Instead of saying yes on impulse, get into the habit of asking yourself, am I agreeing to do this for me? Start with small things, such as when someone asks you to do an insignificant favor for them. Learn to recognize what saying yes and no feel like after you say them, how your body reacts. Do you get anxious? Learn how your body reacts to saying yes or no. So how do you say no? Because it's easier said than done, right? Someone asks you something, you put on the spot, they ask you to do something. So I'm sitting here preaching through a microphone saying, just say no. But it's tough. The first step is to find the word no, is to get a little angry about all the time, energy, and money you have spent saying yes to things that you could have said no to. Now think back to all those parties and nonsense things that you really didn't want to go to, and think about all the time and money and energy you spent, and get angry about it. How many coffees have you had with someone that you didn't want to have coffee with? You know, I'm not talking about your best friend or your sister. I'm talking about acquaintances, you know, people that you really, you can take them or leave them. How many weddings, folks, have you been to? Well, I'm not talking about a family member, but how many weddings have you been to that you didn't really want to attend? How many hours of tedious meetings have you sat through when you had no real reason to be there? So this is how you start to say no. First, like I said, you know, you want to get angry about the time you've wasted in the past, because that should get you in the mood to say no. Be short and sweet about it. A lengthy explanation is not required, and you don't have to justify your decision. Just say this isn't the right time, or I'm not the best person for this project. That's enough. No can be a complete sentence. Expand when you need to, but still keep it short. In just a few sentences, you can say no with gratitude. No, thank you. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I have another commitment. It's better than a long, drawn-out explanation about how busy and how sorry you really are. Keep the door open, folks. Remember that no doesn't mean no forever. No, never, and I hate the idea is not what you're saying. It simply means no, not right now. So it doesn't mean because you say no to someone once that you're shutting them out of your life and you're saying you hate them and leave me alone. It's saying no, right now I don't want to do that. Always be polite. A simple, direct no thank you is often all that you need. But be clear. Saying things like, let me think about it, is often a delay tactic. When you know it's a no, just say no. If you want to say yes, but the timing is bad, suggest another time and be specific. Now that's what we talked about last year in our Mind Your Manners, where people just don't have the balls to say no when you send out an invite or an evite to them. Or they wait till the night before, or they just don't respond because they're afraid of saying no. Just say no. You don't have to have a long explanation. Just say no. That is better than not responding at all. That's just fucking rude. But also, like I said, respond quickly. If you need to think about something for too long, the answer is probably no in your heart. If you know when you want to do something, you'll jump on it. But if you're sitting there and dwelling over it, it's probably a no. Trust your gut, respond and move forward without lamenting your decision. If the thought of saying no to someone to their face fills you with dread, or if being put on the spot and asked to help with something that you don't have the capacity for, but you cannot bear to turn someone down face to face, buy yourself some more time. Just ask the person to text or email you later, a request later or a reminder. This way you can get back to them, and you don't have to feel like you're put on the spot. But again, do it quickly, respond quickly and courteously. So that, I think, is the biggest fear, is just saying no to someone face to face. And if you're not good at that, just say, let me get back to you. Send me an email or send me a text with the date and the time and all that, and I'll get back to you. And that kind of takes that burden of looking someone in the eye and saying no off of you, and giving you a chance to hide behind that screen if you have to, if that's your personality and you get anxious over certain things. It's a good way to do it. So, how can I be kind and respectful yet also stand strong in what I need? What would that sound like? Picture yourself spending all the time you've now freed up doing the thing that really matters to you before responding with your no. So ask yourself that question. Be grateful for the invitation that someone extends to you. They want to make you part of something. Respectful of the time and courage it may have taken someone to ask you. And graceful and loving when you decline. Just don't be a dick about it. Even though, as you get older, that's kind of how you get, right? Like someone, what the fuck do I want to go to that for? No, but when you got to be nice about it. Another little reminder is, remember the previous yes. The hardest person to say no to is yourself, especially if you are on give me more autopilot. You're always saying, give me more, give me more. You're doing this subconsciously. When you have trouble resisting or saying no to everything that comes your way, remember how you feel when you say yes to the right things and the people and projects that mean the most to you. It makes you feel good when you're doing the things that you want to do. When you say yes to what you care about and what you love, it feels really good. The work is more fluid, the time is more fulfilling, and you naturally are going to do your best work and offer the best version of yourself. You're not going to be doing something with dread and, oh shit, I got to get up and do this. And you're going to really put yourself into it. And that's what people are going to like you more for, that than you just saying yes and just going through the motions. People are still going to like you or love you for who you are and how you treat them, not because of things on your to-do list or the things you can't do or can do. They're going to care about you because you make time for them, not because you are so very busy. Consider that your busyness isn't only overwhelming you, but it's everyone around you as well. Now, here's that FOMO again. Turn FOMO into JOMO, fear of missing out. Convert that to the joy of missing out. So what does that mean? Instead of feeling like you're missing out on something, which I think a lot of people feel like they're always missing out, and that's why they commit to all this stuff, honor the commitments you make to yourself. When you decline an invitation, find the joy in how you decide to spend that time instead of wondering what you missed out on. Feel the joy that you have a choice, and joy because you are protecting what matters most. So instead of fearing, you feel like, oh, I wonder what's going on, I'm missing out. Take joy in the time that you just freed up, and even if it's something like sitting on the couch and watching TV, if it's something you really want to do and gives you joy, you should be happy that you are doing that. You really have to dump the guilt, too. Of course, you will help someone in their time of need. Come on, I'm not saying if someone needs a ride to the hospital, if they are sick or something, you're still going to do the right thing, folks. This is about more frivolous type things. You're going to help people in their time of need. So dump the guilt about, not baking cookies or attending an event you don't want to go to, or picking someone from the airport. Just believe in your choices and what you know is best for your life, and say no to guilt. So just don't feel guilty about it. Again, if a close family member is sick in the hospital and you're just, I don't want to go see them, then you're a dick. Then you should feel guilty. But if it's, again, a little thing like doing a non-substantial favor for someone, you don't have to feel guilty. The small, still moments are where you build your strength and resilience so you can contribute to the world in a more meaningful way. If you are still struggling after hearing all this about saying no, bear in mind what the billionaire businessman Warren Buffett famously said, and I'm going to quote him, quote, "Successful people say no to almost everything," end quote. Saying no allows you to say yes to what is important to you. It allows you to be a better person because when you say yes, it comes from a good place, not from resentment or fear. It creates space for what matters most to you, rather than drowning in busyness like most of us are. And consider this, folks. If you said no more, what could you say yes to? More self-care, better mental health, better physical health, more time with your kids, working on a passion project, something you've always wanted to do. Allow the possibilities to inspire your no. And I'm going to leave this topic with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. Quote, "A no uttered from the deepest conviction is better than a yes merely uttered to please, or worse, to avoid trouble," end quote. So we hope, or I hope, that this episode brings you a little bit of clarity, because we're all pressed for time in a way. We only have so many hours in a day, like we talked about last week with in the song lyrics when Philip and I were here. Billy Joel's song Vienna. You got so much to do and only so many hours in a day. When the truth is told, you can get what you want, or you can just get old. So, again, pick and choose what you want to do wisely. Now, next week, I want you to maybe view the show before next week's episode so you can kind of connect to who I'm going to be talking to. I know we did an episode last Halloween on the paranormal, my beliefs in it. We had Jen here last year, and she talked about her paranormal experiences. Now, I know some of you are skeptics. I think I was a skeptic. I'm not as much of a skeptic anymore since I've had a few experiences. But there is a show on Amazon Prime. Now, we all have an Amazon Prime account, or if you know somebody who does, and Amazon Prime offers Amazon Video, which you can get on your tablet, your phone, your smart TVs, your Fire Sticks. There's a show called Haunted State. And there's these paranormal investigators. I believe it's in the state of Wisconsin. They did a movie in 2017 called Haunted State. It was about haunted movie theaters, I believe, in either Michigan or Wisconsin. I don't remember. But it was very good. And now this year they have a new series out called Haunted State. And they're visiting different places around Wisconsin. And they're using all kinds of equipment. And you can hear some of the voices of the spirits. It's not a show. Now, I know what you're thinking. A lot of these paranormal hunter shows, all they do is go in these dark places. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? And it's just, it's kind of cheesy. I like how this show is presented. They do the work. They do the hunting. They do the discovery. Things happen that are presented to the audience raw. And you decide. They're not forcing you to believe in anything on the show or telling you that's what happened. They're leaving it up to the viewing audience to decide. And it's very, very good. And next week, I'm going to have a special guest, a gentleman by the name of Todd, who's one of the paranormal investigators on the show, Haunted State on Amazon Prime. They've got 4 episodes so far, folks. And I think Amazon's releasing a new one every week or two. So the 5th episode should be coming up in the next week or so. They're about 40 minutes long, so easy watch, and you're not bogged down with 2-hour episodes. So go to your Amazon Prime, check out Haunted State, the 2019, the 4 episodes for this year, 5th episode coming up, and we're going to have Todd next week, who is one of the investigators, and I feel like if you watch the show before listening to next week's podcast, you might connect better to what we're talking about. We're not just going to talk about what happens on the show. We're going to talk to Todd about his paranormal experiences, both on the show and off the show, his beliefs. And we're going to drill down on a lot of things that have gone on the series and in his personal life as far as paranormal. And I may, talk again about some of the experiences I had. So it's going to be a fun show next week. So if you get a chance this week, again, you do a half hour a night, 40 minutes a night, or you can binge watch them all in one day if it's a rainy night or day. Check out, because you have the whole week and next weekend, check out Haunted State It's on Amazon Prime. You'll be glad you did. Even if you're a skeptic, it's very interesting. They do a good job. It's not these silly, cheesy ghost hunter shows that, they're a dime a dozen. These people do it right, and I really think you'll enjoy that. So he's going to be our guest next week, and I think you'll enjoy the show. So I'm looking forward to that. So we have a little shorter episode this week, but I just wanted to let you know what is going on next week. So in case you're new to the show, where are we found, folks? We are found on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Radio.com, Radio Public, CastBox, YouTube, or if you have an Amazon Echo device, just say, Alexa, play the podcast A Bunch of Malarkey, and she will play the most recent episode. Don't forget to vote for our Mutant of the Week. This week we have Coach Crank, the guy training a meth attack squirrel, and the floaty fucker, the guy having sex with pool floaties. If you enjoy the podcast, this is our 44th episode already, so we're coming up to a milestone in a few weeks, 50. If you like this podcast, and a lot of you do, you're back here every week. If you haven't picked up my book yet, a whole lot of shenanigans. Summer reading season's here by the shit-filled pool. Pick up my book, A Whole Lot of Shenanigans. It's on Amazon. It's on eBay. If you want a signed copy, personalized copy, get it from eBay. I'll sign it. Personalize it for you, get it out to you. Or you can just order it through Amazon. You get 2 days shipping on that free. Again, Amazon. Isn't it great, Amazon? So we are going to be sitting down with Todd from an Amazon Prime series called Haunted State next week. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. Don't forget, Mutant of the Week voting starts on Tuesday and ends on Saturday. And again, thank you folks so much. Listenership through the ceiling again the last couple of weeks, so I thank you very much. And folks, whether you are just hanging out in these dog days of summer, or maybe you're going to sit down the next couple of days and really decide how you're going to say no, start saying no and freeing up that time. And in the meantime, you still have to beware. And why is that? It's a shit show out there. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been A Bunch of Malarkey, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody.